actual thing. That way it stands out.
Almost there.
Actual thing. That way it stands out.
Okay.
Live.
All right. Yes. Thank you, Khadaura, so much for joining me on my channel today. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Awesome to be here.
Yeah. So we are here the day after Thanksgiving. How was your Thanksgiving, man?
Really, really good. I spent Thanksgiving with some tribe members and their family, and it was good for me because I don't really have family to hang out with. So being invited in that space of someone else's family and extended family had a lot come up for me in like such the most beautiful, positive ways. So what about you?
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. I went to my sister's house.
Nice.
So with my sister and her partner and her 2 kids, and then her partner's parents came over. So it was small and intimate, but it was good. It was good. I always love seeing my my nieces. It's always a great thing. So yeah, it was good though. It was good.
Good.
Yeah. And I saw you working out at 5 a.m. this morning.
Yeah. It was everything was good. And I was like, I'll save the sit-ups for last, because I was like, I also want to make a photo and a video. And as I was doing the last set, I was like, oh man, I was like, I can feel all that food from last night right now. So, but it was still 100% worth it. I stuck to the routine of like, because a part of me was like, I can skip tomorrow, trained hard earlier that day, but I was like, no, I got to stay consistent. So.
Yeah. And how long have you been doing this 5 a.m. routine like this?
So the 5 a.m. routine, this specific one, 2 weeks now, I always do everything like cold turkey. So I just was like, all right, wake up tomorrow at 5 a.m. And people are like, what's the secret? I'm like, go to bed early. I was like, I need to be to bed by 10. Like, and
Yeah.
the whole thing about it is I reminded myself that like nothing really happens after 10 p.m. Like, to be all honest, I'm not going to miss any opportunities, any messages. Like, it's okay to respond in the morning, which is what I do. I wake up and I just respond and stuff. But it's just nicer to wake up and start my day. And I used to do it a lot when I was younger. And it's just, they call it rising with the sun. So it's like, I love waking up and getting to watch the full rising of the sun. And, you know, it's only
Oh
9
my
in the morning.
gosh.
It's 9 in the morning and I've already done everything I need to do for the day, to be honest. Like, I just have 2 meetings later. So I can really relax all day and not feel stressed. Like, I got to create content. I've already made all the content and stuff by waking up early. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love that so much because I love waking up early, and there's those morning hours really early. It's just in that quiet time, in that quiet space. It just seems like it's like this magical time where you can just be so productive and get so much done. So I love it. I'm not getting up as early as you. I get up at 7, but
It's still early.
yeah. It's okay.
Yeah. When I was growing up in Japan, we used to have to wake up early too. And my master calls it the God zone. And they call it the God zone because it's quiet and it's like not even the birds are awake, like the crickets aren't chirping, people aren't moving. And then it's like, it's the same in the evening. And that's why I used to love working night shifts. It's quieter, there's less distractions. So when I first started waking up, I realized there's actually no distractions because no one's awake, no one's texting, no one's blah, blah, blah. So I feel like you get more done in the morning when you do that. And then obviously working out is best to me so that I can knock it out and wake up. So.
And you get to work out on an empty stomach, which
Yeah.
I think is a lot more beneficial.
Mm-hmm. I actually just caught on to like the eating thing because I had been eating like lunch normal time, like 11:30, like I normally do. But I think 2 days ago, it was like 9, or it was like 9, and I was so hungry. I was like, why am I so hungry at 9? And I was like, oh shit, I forgot I wake up early. So that means like I'm eating breakfast earlier, which means I'm going to be hungrier for lunch earlier. I was like, got it.
Yeah. So, and I know like a lot of people might think how do you wake up that early? Like, how do you do that? So would you have like tips for people that want to start doing that?
Honestly, if you're not used to doing the waking up early thing, like do it in like increments of like 30 minutes is what I used to train people before. It's like if you normally wake up at 7 and you want to start doing 5, wake up at 6:30 for like a week and then 6 for a week, and then or just like gauge it for yourself. It's easy for me to go cold turkey because of my army training. Like I can just start waking up at 4 a.m. But again, the actual main secret is going to sleep early. And I get a lot of people that are always like, but I can't go to sleep with that. And it's like, it's your choice. If you know you can't go to sleep at 10, like stop using your phone at 9. Like you have to physically put your phone away and then go do something that tires you out. I'll watch a TV episode of something that I know will like tire me out. I won't go watch like an action movie or go work out or go drink coffee like some people do. Start doing the things like drinking tea that will make you tired, and then it's easier to fall asleep on your own.
Like maybe drinking some chamomile tea.
Yeah,
And
it
for
helps.
me, for me, it's those nature documentaries that gets me every time. If it's like David Attenborough, I'm just like, oh.
Or audiobooks. I used to do audiobooks sometimes too. I just start listening. I was listening to Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, and it was just like great voice. And I'm just like, all right, thanks. All right, that chapter's over.
Oh, nice. Is that a recent book of his?
It's a couple months ago, but still this year. Yeah.
Yeah, because he seems like he's gotten like more woke more recently. He's one of those people.
Yeah. He's definitely sharing a lot. His book, he goes really deep with his share. It's why I love it. And I'm gonna start Will Smith's book next now. So
Yeah, I actually heard he did ayahuasca.
yeah, a couple times.
Yeah, which is it's
But
pretty cool.
it's so he did ayahuasca a couple times over the last couple of years. So he's just telling people about it. I'm like, finally.
Right. Yeah, he's coming out of the closet. Yeah, I mean it's not always easy to share that with people. I mean, I think like with anything, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So but it's still I still find myself at times being cautious
Mhm.
about like who I tell that to, and kind of like gauging if they're gonna even be like
Mhm.
open to that at all. But yeah, I mean, because there's still a lot of fear around it and a lot of misunderstandings around it. I mean, that and many other things, right? But yeah, because there's a lot of misconceptions.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely am at a point in my life where I just see myself as planting seeds. So I just tell people and don't really care what they think about it because it's my life. That's just for me. I like it started with the army. Like first, when I was finally able to be like, I was in the army, I went to war, I've done this and that. That's when I just broke the barrier of being like, I don't need to be afraid to share my life with people because it might help someone. Where maybe I'm the 7th person that talked about ayahuasca, and the person after me that tells them is the 8th person. Now the person's like, dang, 8 people that I know have done it.
Yeah,
Like, so that's why I share. I'm like, I might be number 5 out of 50, but I needed to be number 5, or else maybe that
absolutely.
49 wouldn't have happened. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so inspiring. Thank you for that. I think that definitely helps, because I think, sometimes I'm like, is this person gonna think I'm crazy? What are they gonna think? So I still battle with that sometimes, honestly.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's literally and it's like I hate to say the word, but it's the people pleaser in us because of like the conditioning from like mom and dad, what's right and wrong, and then society being like this is wrong, mushrooms and all these other things, ayahuasca, plant medicines, and then I don't care. Like I've even told people about the crazy stuff I did in South America, and people were looking at me like, wow, and I'm like, wanted to experience it for myself. And I was like, now I know I don't need any of that stuff, but I was like, I got to experience it. And yeah, I would never like overdo anything like that. And I had people around me. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think there's something like really inspiring in sharing your stories.
mhm.
And it lets other people know that it's okay for them to do that too, that it's safe.
Yep.
Hey, you can do this. It's all right. And you know what? Sometimes you might have people that will make a comment or judge or hate on whatever it is. And you just got to kind of let it like roll off, right?
Just like, peace.
Peace out. Yeah.
I actually just use the emoji of the smiley face, like one of the basics. I just smile every time someone types a negative comment on the thing. I just smile because for me, there's no reason to argue with them. One, because they don't pay my bills, and two, they're living their life based on their own experiences. So they can't tell me what I'm doing wrong in my life if they haven't lived the life that I've lived.
Very true. And I just can't even argue with people anymore. I just can't. My soul's like, no, you're done. Because I used to do that. I used to argue and debate and, defend my opinion and, I'm right about this.
That used to be me too. Like I'd be laying on my argument mode would be me laying back there on my stomach being like, "You think you're smart?" And then it'd be like, I'd run out of space to type stuff and I put ... And then it'd be like part two.
Yeah,
I'd be like calling people stuff. And then like they never respond. And then I'm just like,
yeah,
I won.
yeah,
And then nothing happens, like nothing changes. So
yeah, because and I was very good at it too. Like, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to show you, and I could argue my points very well to the almost to the point where people like couldn't even say anything back, like you said, right? It's like the same thing. It's like, oh, I won. And now I'm like, no, I don't want to, because it's a time suck, it's an energy suck. And you know what? If that's that person's truth and that's what they want to believe, let them do it. Like I don't want to interfere in that, like if they're open to it, they are, and if not, not.
yeah. I think I trust my intuition on certain instances where stuff comes up where I told someone, I was like, I'm not defending myself. I was like, I'm speaking my truth. And I was like, I'm very mindful of the energy that I put into that space. Even last week, someone on TikTok went into a video and was like, yeah, last year I reached out to you for support and with me and my partner, and you just ignored us because you were all about the money. And now I realize we don't need your help. And it's like, I saw that comment and I wrote in there and I was like, I remember that you and your husband wanted to do a 1 hour long session for $60 US. And I told you that just wouldn't be fair for myself and integrity with me and the current clients I have. And she just never responded. And it's like in that moment, it was an aspect of standing up for myself, but also I wanted other people to see like, hey, I'm not going to just ignore this comment. I'm going to actually state what really happened. And by her not responding to it, I feel people will see it and be like, oh, well, now we know his side of the story. And he's not being defensive and be like, no, you blah, blah, blah. I just told the simple facts. You wanted a 1 hour session for $60. I told you it was out of integrity for me and my clients. And that was the end of the sentence. So
yeah, just stating the facts. And I had a recent guest come on recently that said a very similar thing. She's like, I don't come at it with like any emotional charge. It's just I just state the facts. And she said that sometimes, well, a lot of it is related to specific issues in the medical industry related to a certain procedure that's being done on women that really shouldn't be done anymore and is unnecessary and is causing a lot of really bad side effects. And so she'll get on and, make comments, and sometimes she'll have doctors like just going crazy about it because, they're defending that, very traditional medical system that's been in place, right? And anything that's like different, they just can't tolerate it. And she was saying that like in those cases, yeah, like it is important to go in there and list the real facts and like don't let people bully you like that, because there's other people reading that. And she said that this is something that really stuck out with me, is she said that most of the time people don't comment, they just read. And I think that's so true, because
I think 98% of people, I'd say 99% of people or more, like 99.8% of people just read stuff.
Yeah.
And they'll never jump in and like speak up what they want to say. I mean, sometimes depending on what it is, but like most people do just read. They don't even watch the video. They just read what's going on in the comment section. And they're like, ooh, this is juicy. And they'll literally read the whole thread of comments. and they're looking to see like what's going on. And it's, to me, it's an educational opportunity. So that's why, again,
Right.
I'll speak up on certain things, but it's like I won't have that battle of like, do your research, because it's like I don't know where they're looking for stuff. And like they could be looking on Google, I could be looking on Google, both of us are probably, we could both be wrong. So I'm like not going to fight those battles unless I know it from like experience.
Yeah. And sometimes my research, because I worked in research for a long time, and now sometimes my research is in here.
Yeah.
It's like and that's a difficult concept to
Yeah.
explain to a lot of people. They're like, wait a minute, like how do you just know?
Yeah. Well, I tell people certain things, and then I had someone that was like, "Well, it was about Clear Phone 420, about like the phone. It's one of the phone companies. It's like considered most secure, and
Okay.
they were basically trying to bring me into the company, and I was just like, it's not for me. I was like, I got paid as a cybersecurity analyst to go research that company, and they were like, well, can you show us the research? I'm like, I got paid by a government company to do research for them. I can't show you the stuff that I found on this company, but it's like, I'm not trying to like make you all believe me. I'm only expressing why I personally won't invest in a company like that. And I feel like that's where people get, like triggered. And it's like, well, if you can't prove it, then it's not true. And it's like, I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm simply letting you know why I don't want to do it. And if you can't accept my sacred no, then, so be it. And I mean, like, as you said with the doctor, anytime I like, the one thing that inspired me was when I watched this not long, it was a YouTube video, it was just long to me. It's like 10 minutes about solar panels. And I watched the guy that told the world like 40 or 50 years ago or 60 years ago, we need to use solar panels. And everybody laughed at him. Everybody, they discredited this guy so much. And I'm like thinking, and I'm like, yo, if we had been using solar panels 40 years ago, we'd have so much better stuff now. But when you watch these people ridicule this person, it was just sad. Like I felt really bad for that guy. Like he lost everything. Obviously, he lost his credit from everything. And now he's probably laughing at everybody. So it's interesting how that plays out. And I think that's just why I like to, again, do my own research on stuff
Yeah.
for myself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for people who are who don't know you and who don't know who you are, tell them a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Awesome. Cool. I'll summarize it and do my best to land the plane. Grew up in Japan as a preteen teenager, lived around mystics and monks. So I learned at a very young age about like spirituality and just mindfulness and things like that. Then went on to join the military to better understand like the warrior spirit and the warrior body and warrior mind. Stayed in the military for almost 14 years, got out, did fashion photography and a plethora of other things to see what I wanted to do in life at the same time. Got my degree in psychology, master's in cybersecurity, and then realized none of that was for me. And yet everything I did brought me into the space that I'm in now, which is personal branding. I've just realized like, as we were saying, the things that we do online play a huge role in like our business, especially if you're a business person. So my job now is I work with people, one, to get them to understand like what is like the brand image you have when people see you online and offline. What are your branding colors? Like a lot of people see yellow. I have lots of yellow stuff. So like yellow and gold are like my brand colors. So when I'm doing things, when people see that color, they usually know the video or the photo is me, but ultimately getting people to understand like their self-worth. Because a quote that someone said to me almost 2 years ago, they said that we don't have business problems, we just have personal problems that show up in our business. And that quote like landed so hard where I was like, oh, I am struggling with a lot of stuff on business. Let me go figure out what's going on in my personal life. And it was stuff from like growing up, childhood abuse and whatever it may be in the military and bullying and all that stuff. So it's supporting people in that journey of understanding, because I myself went through that all with myself, with other coaches that mentored me and things like that. So I love that space of just helping people be unapologetically themselves, which is what I do. I literally just post and share whatever I want on social media with the intention of showing people, yes, you can talk about ayahuasca and share that journey and it not damage your business. I might have people that don't want to work with me because of what I do, which is perfectly fine. There's like 7 billion people in the world. Losing 1,000 people on Instagram isn't going to ruin my life. So
Yeah, and I think that's important because not everyone is meant to work with you or with me or with, yeah, we have specific people. I believe that like we have these, well, maybe we have these soul contracts with these people, that we're meant to work with certain people, we're meant to have conversations with certain people, and, like not everybody's going to want to come on my channel. That's okay.
They're
Like,
lost.
I mean, what I'm saying, right? I mean, I think that because I've reached out to, I mean, not too many people yet, but I have kind of prompted and said, hey, like, if anybody wants to come on, let me know. And I've had to like really like reach out to people personally, which is fine. Most of the people so far have been like, yeah, great. This is awesome. I'm so excited. And, but there's been a few people that have, declined. And,
Yeah.
I think I get a sense that it's the coming on camera and like sharing yourself with the world, because that's what YouTube is. And and we're live too.
Oh, we're live. No, I'm playing.
Yeah. So we're live. It's not a recording. There's no like pre-scripted questions. I'm not going to send you like a list of questions. It's like, no, you just like come on and be yourself. And I think that some people are still very nervous about showing up like that.
Which is interesting because it's all practice. I get people that are like, oh, like whenever you talk, whether it's in person or video or whatever you do live, it's like, oh, it's almost perfect. Like you don't mess up. And I'm like, I mess up sometimes. I was like, and I just practiced it. And I was like, I got good at it because I went live on TikTok every morning at 7 a.m. PST for 2 straight months for like an hour. And I would just answer people's questions. And that's how I got good at like speaking and like being able to think. But I always tell people like, slow it down. I think people that I meet get nervous because they're like, yeah, and then the solar panels and COVID, and it's like they've got all these things that they're trying to process at once instead of just being like, yes, solar panels are like a really cool thing. Or you see them and they're like, the benefits of personal branding are people you trust and difference in competition, or they're like looking down at their notes and it's like it's not a bad thing, but it's like practice. Like even I think, yeah, one of my clients was a tarot reader and she's like, I really want to start out. And I was like, well, just look at your cards in the book while you're going live. She's like, really? I was like, yeah. And that's what she did for like a month and a half, I think 6 weeks. She'd like pull a card, look in the book, read what the card meant, and she just keep doing that every day for 6 straight weeks. And now she doesn't need the book because she's starts to trust her intuition. But it's like in learning to trust her intuition, she was also live. So she was breaking free of like multiple things at the same time. And I was like, that's all you got to do. Like, it's okay. No one's going to go back like a year and be like, oh my God, you used to look in your book. And if someone said something, I'd be like, okay, I did used to look in my book because I didn't understand the cards. I wasn't in touch with my intuition, but now I am. So it's like,
Yeah, and good for her. And I mean, I'd rather have her look in her book if she's unsure about something versus like just pulling stuff out of your butt.
yeah, I made a tarot spoof way back, and I had a deck of cards. I had a normal deck of cards. It like triggered a bunch of people. It was from my old account. It triggered a bunch of people, but I had like a deck of cards, like a normal deck of cards. And I
Yeah.
was like, the 7 of spades. What I'm feeling coming through right now is there's 7 things in everyone's life that they're holding back from saying. And I'd like you to write down 7 things that you're feeling spaded about. And like, I was like, in reality, some people actually did it. Like some people went and wrote down 7 things, but a whole bunch of people were like, you're making fun of tarot readers. I'm like, it's intuition. Like if to me, if you're a die-hard real tarot card reader, you could take a blank deck of cards with nothing on either side, pull it and be like, what I'm feeling coming through is, because it's still your intuition, which is what I should be doing. I'm just gonna get a whole deck of like all black cards and just grab them and be like, what I'm seeing on this card is, and people are gonna be like, what is he reading?
Yeah, I've got a Facebook friend that does invisible card readings. So she doesn't even have cards. Um, and she's
What are
like,
you doing? I'm gonna do
she's like,
that.
I'm seeing this card for you, and it looks like this, and it has this. It's pretty cool. Yeah, yeah.
This looks
Well,
weird.
plus two, like some of my decks, like I love, but the explanations will be like so short.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not enough. That's not enough for me. So yeah, but they're
Like
fun.
this ancient Native American goddess. And it's like when you read the thing, it's like speak more into freedom. And I'm like, it's very generic. What are you talking about? But it gives you the opportunity to be like, where in my life have I had to speak more into freedom? And it's like it takes practice to be able to quickly be like, I remember this story. And I think that's the issue is people aren't really telling their stories to themselves. Like in a way, like there's a lot of people that aren't writing in their journal and then reading what they wrote out loud so they can hear what the story sounds like. So then when you regurgitate it to the world, it's easier to say. So when you pull the card that says, speak into your freedom, and they just be like, I remember a moment in my life where I didn't speak into freedom because my parents always blah, blah, blah. And then it's easier because you've been doing it for yourself already. So it's easier to share now with the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I had spent a few years in therapy, so that made it a lot easier for me because I was already like, telling all my stories to someone else.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I mean, therapy is also not accessible for everybody. It's just not. And so journaling is the next best thing. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Journaling, I think there's that, what is it, the three morning pages from the Artist's Way or something like that,
Mm.
where you just get up in the morning and you just write 3 pages in your journal about whatever comes out.
Kudos to people that can do that. Like yeah, I think I try. I think I was in something like that, and they were like, "Yeah, write 3 pages every morning." And it's just like I have my war injuries of being blown up, so my arms messed up, so I actually can't write a lot, nor would I like type it all out. But it's like me, in order to get me on that track, I just like write out bullet points every morning. And it was like when I started working with other people, I was like, you can write a whole page, 2 pages, or like 3 bullet point sentences of like whatever you want to say, and then it's like leave spaces. So it's like bullet point, da da da, leave like 2 or 3 lines and stuff like that. And then fill in those lines throughout the day. Because once you think it's in your space for like the day, and then it starts pulling up other stuff in your life. And then you're like, oh my goodness, I just realized I haven't connected to my inner child because my inner teen is disrupting. And then you get to go even deeper in that. So I feel like that's also an alternative. But writing it out, period. I always tell people like when you write something in your journal, you're taking like this conscious, subconscious thought, turning it into some form of energy. It's moving through your mind, beyond your mouth, beyond your throat, all the way into your arm. And you're putting that energy into a book. And that book now is like your own mini Akashic record. So I always tell people, I'm like, I feel like the Akashic records are people's journals. So this is why I journal a lot, because I'm like, put it in the journal and then like toss it to God or universe. And then they're like, oh, sweet, you saved this time. I'm like, yeah, got you. I want to
Yeah.
work with this in the next life. Thank you.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense totally. Um, yeah, I need to, honestly, I haven't been journaling enough recently, so I need to get back to that. Yeah. So how's your life been going? So I know you've been in Austin for a while now. How are you liking it there?
I love this city. Not gonna lie, I love Austin. I had my 1 year anniversary on the 13th of November.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. Time
Officially,
flies.
yeah, I've
It
been
seems
here
like
for
you
a whole
just moved
year. Yeah, been here for a whole year, and it's the best thing I've ever done, to be honest. Um, it's the first time where I allowed myself to receive and be supported at the same time because I had no idea what I was going to do. And someone offered to let me stay at their house for a couple of days to check the place out. And I loved it. And there's a motto that Preston Smiles was always saying last year, and it was like, make a way out of no way. So I was like, when I came here, I had like a few clients, but I wasn't like booming with money. So I would have been tight for everything. And I was just like, but I'm going to do it. And I came back here and I was able to find Airbnbs and was able to pay the rent and just enough to get for food and stuff like that. And then the big change came with the season, because Austin's seasonal type rent thing. So prices were about to start spiking in like March. Literally almost all the prices either double or quadruple. So the apartment I was staying in was $1,200 a month when I got there. And for March, it was going to be like $3,200. Same place, nothing changed, just the price. And I was like, I need to get an apartment. And I was like, gonna make a way out of nowhere. And I found this lovely 1 bedroom that's $2,100, which is expensive, but I'm also downtown, walking distance of everything. And I've been able to make rent and all this stuff without having to worry. And I love it because it's true. And I honestly believe that if you really, really want something, if my intention, which is the future, is to live in a space that provides me the environment that will help me grow and bring in more things into my space, then my intent is the moment is to like focus on the things I get to do to get there. And then I just give all my attention to like all the stuff that's around me. And I believe that's how it worked for me. So that's like my advice to anyone, like set your intention for the future, focus on what your intent is of doing the things, knowing that I can't plan it out. Like, I don't know what's going to happen next month, but my intent is to blah, blah, blah. And then I just start attracting so much stuff because I'm actually working towards the goals and not just writing it in a journal and being like, my intent for the month is, and then just walking off, which is what a lot of people do. It's like, my intent is to make sure I can get a bigger apartment in a couple of months. So it's like, to do that, if the rent goes up, then I need to start bringing in more clients, which means I need to start showing up more on social media and yada, yada, yada. So.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I believe in that too. I mean, I think that making something out of nothing, it's like, it reminds me of situations and times in your life when things seem to be falling apart and you're like, what am I going to do? Like, and if you allow your mind to go into the fear mode, you might not see any options, you might not see any way out. So you have to kind of like lean in and then move beyond that. And you can really, I mean, the possibilities are infinite. Like, I really do believe that. I believe we can create anything we want. I think probably the most difficult part is figuring out what that is. What do you want? That, well, at least for me.
Well, I'll say, I think a lot of people don't know what they want at the highest frequency. Like, they want a nice apartment, but when you go deeper, it's like, why do you want a nice apartment? And it's like, I've always wanted my own house. So it's like, they don't want a nice apartment. They want to start building until they can buy their own home. And once you know what you really want is your own home, and it's like, well, this is what you need to do to get the home, not the apartment. And it's like, why do you actually want a big home? And it's like, well, I want to give my kids something. And it's like, oh, so you want a family? And they're like, yeah. So it's not even the apartment. It's not even the home. They want to be a mother or a father with like 2 kids. And now that you know that, that helps you break down the, oh, your whole thing is relationships. It's got nothing to do with your apartment or the job you have right now. You're still blocking yourself from receiving love from a partner, which is preventing you from ultimately having a family, getting a house, and being in the apartment you want to be in. So.
Yeah, I like to ask people, not only like what brings you joy, what lights you up, what are you passionate about, but like, what's your ideal day? How do you want to be spending your time? What do you want to be doing with your days? Where do you want to be living? Like, all of that stuff. And like, a lot of the times people are like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, well, start thinking about it.
That's like, oh man, that answer always gets me. Like, I hate to say it, trigger, it does. Whenever someone says, I don't know, like, I'm like, so what are you afraid of? Like, they'll tell you the challenges, and it gets to a point where they're fearing something, and I'm like, what are you afraid of? They're like, I don't know. And I'm like, I'm gonna just stop you. Like, that's BS. Like, let's really go there. Like, what are you actually afraid of? And when we get to the thing and they realize it, it's like, oh shit. And the reason why that's so powerful, especially as we do in our businesses and industries, is because most people won't do that. Most people will just be like, okay, she doesn't know, he doesn't know, they don't know. I don't know what it is either. I'm not going to poke. So I love having a career where my job is to poke in those spaces that can be uncomfortable, in a way where they understood that they're still being held. Like, I'm going to poke and prod and try to go as deep with you as you can. One, because I've done that for myself, but 2, we're still in this container where I want you to know, like, if you break down and start crying, I'm still going to be able to be there and like get you to breathe and move and relax. But those depths are, I think, what blocks a lot of people from achieving their true greatness. And every single person in this world has like that thing they're really good at. I mean, one of the clients I have has an Etsy shop where they sell stamps and like little toys, and they're making a killing, but that's what they love doing. And there's other people out there that want those little toys and those stamps and those coins. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that you're having fun. Like I think that's why we're here,
Mhm.
is to have fun and enjoy it, and and have this be like a pleasurable experience.
Mhm.
I think just to play and have fun,
Yep.
you know. I'm like, you
People
know, I just want to make art and eat fruit. That's my latest thing.
do it. I eat watermelon every single day, and my art is Canva. So I feel you on that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I like, honestly, I don't think people really want to work. I think they want to do what is fun, like do something that's fun for them. They don't know, nobody wants to go to
You need
this
support.
job every
Yeah.
day and like something they don't care about. Nobody wants to
Yeah.
do that. Come on, let's be real.
Yeah.
But then there's this whole thing about money, right? And we need money in this reality. We need money to survive. But yeah, and there are all different ways of doing things. Like, I told you right now I'm doing work away.
Mhm.
So I'm at my second one, and it's like I tell people about it, and most people don't even know what it is because they've never even heard about this concept. They've never even heard about like this alternate way of living,
Yep.
you know? And it's really cool though, because they're always interested. They're like, wait,
Mhm.
what is this thing you're doing? But yeah, this is my second one, and it's been a really interesting experience so far. So yeah, it's been cool.
I did 2 years of work away, so it was
What was your favorite one that you did?
um the one I'll say the one that shifted me the most was working on the farm in the Sonoran Desert, because they actually dug up all of that dirt and sand and replanted or resoiled everything, and they're growing like oranges and apples and like all these other types of fruits that you would never see in the desert, and this like beautiful ecological system they've set up. um, but there was something the owner said to me, and she's like, nothing in the desert is ever really dead. And I remember there was like this plant that was just dead. It was dead. Like when you look at it, it was dead. And because it was still there, and like they didn't check these areas anyways. I'd just keep dancing and watering it with all the other ones every single day. And about 3 months later, it was back to life. Like like it was like alive. And like I didn't really notice it. Like I'd still keep watering it, and I might have noticed certain color changes, but not at that thing. But it was definitely 3 months later where I realized like the plant was alive and thriving. And I'm like, that's interesting, because this plant was dead, and I think the old leaves fell off, and it's like it started to come back to life. And I watched a tree do the same thing. I watched a tree start to grow out of a dead tree. And I was like, that's what she went by. Nothing's ever dead. And that landed very deeply in my own self of, yeah, there's moments in my life where I feel like that I just like I'm dead. But if I keep watering myself and doing the things I love, eventually I'll be reborn and all that cool stuff. So that to me was like and I was telling her a story about it. And even she was like, yeah, that thing was dead. And I'm like, right? And I was like, it's alive. And she's like, what did you do? I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, you must have a really good spirit to like bring that plant back to life. And I would just always be. So she put me on like watering duty because of that, because I just kept plants alive and brought them back from the dead. So I was like, God, I don't know what I'm doing. And I've never really worked in these things, but I'm going to water all these plants. I was like, yeah. So
Just giving them love and attention.
love. And I would dance and listen to music, and I really believe it was the music and the energy of just movement. And I think the plants were like, I want to be alive again.
Yeah, heck yeah. I want to come join
Yeah.
the party.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And that's such a beautiful metaphor too,
Mhm.
really. And I think I'm not sure if this is true, but I'm trying to like access the depths of my memory right now, which is not always accurate. But I think there's mycelium pretty much everywhere underground, like even in the deserts.
Mhm.
So like everywhere you walk, it's everywhere.
Mhm.
So yeah. it's there. But that's cool. Did you see any toads when you were out there?
Not too many toads. I saw a lot of snakes, and then there's something that like looks like a snake. I can't remember what it's called. It's like the slowest thing in the desert, but if it bites you, you're SOL. Like
Oh,
it's bad because if you only see the front side of it, it looks like a snake. If you don't see the legs, and I remember once I was walking and it rustled a bush, and I stopped and was like, "Oh God, not again!" And I was like, "This will be the day." And then it like came around the corner, and I'm like, "Whoo!" I'm like, "I know you're not gonna catch me." I was like, "I'm just gonna go this way." But yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience of like seeing rattlesnakes and king snakes, and the reason I did so doing research on king snakes and ants and bees and wasps, and just learned so much about animals in general. Like every ant that we've pretty much ever seen is a female ant. Like that's just something people don't know. So when we see all these ants working, those are females. Like I was like, what? Yeah.
do the males stay in the colony?
There's only a few men. They actually don't keep a lot of males around. Most of the males
Oh,
die, and then pretty much all the ants die when winter or whatever seasons come around, and it's just the queen. But most ants are actually females. Um, King snakes are amazing because they are friends with all the other snakes. So that's like a king snake will literally go to where a rattlesnake is and just sleep in the same area. And then when it comes to that moment where it needs to do it, the rattlesnake realizes, oh, I can't trust this person. So before the rattlesnake can attack, the king snake just engulfs it whole. It literally puts its whole mouth over the rattlesnake and swallows it whole. And I was watching and I was like, so whenever I would see king snakes, I'm like, you're cool. You cool, not messing with you. Now I know why there's no rattlesnakes over here because we had two king snakes in where we were. So
damn.
yeah.
Yeah, that's savage.
I was like, now I know where you get your name from. I'm like, that's savage as heck. I'm like,
That's
wow.
savage. Just like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm gonna crawl in for a cuddle and then chomp.
Like
Wow.
literally, they were literally cuddle up next to a rattlesnake and just chill all night. And then the next morning be like, oh yeah, guess what? And then just gone. And I was like, wow.
What's the
That's
moral? The moral of that story is don't cuddle with a
don't trust anybody.
don't trust anybody.
Don't trust anybody. That was my moral of that story.
Oh,
And I remember I watched that video and I was around other volunteers and people would just like sit next to me on the bench and I'd be like, you're gonna try to steal my lunch or something. I didn't trust people for like 2 or 3 days because of that, watching what happened. So
yeah, after the snake. But you're more trusting of people now, though. I'm guessing.
yeah, way more trusting. But I was in the desert too at the time, so you just got to be careful. And
Yeah.
it's work away, so it's like for anyone that ever jumps in the world of work away, also be mindful of just like what you say, what you do, what you share, because a lot of spaces may not be locked, and because you're all backpackers, you think you can trust everyone. So it's just like trust your intuition, but also be smart. Don't be naive.
Yeah, that's right. Because we're always developing our intuition and discernment all the time. So I mean, I don't know. At least in my experience, like sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, this will be fine. And then I find out later it's like, oh nope, that definitely wasn't. So it's like the fine tuning of the discernment and intuition. And we can only do that through experience, right?
Yeah.
We have to experience the things to know like, okay, like watch out for these signs. Otherwise we don't know. So yeah, but yeah, it's been cool so far. It's been cool.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I know when you first started, I was like really happy for you. So I was like, I hope they get to experience some of the amazing stuff I got to experience where you're just doing different jobs and it's nice. Like I had a room, I had internet, they gave us food. All the workaways I had at least 2 meals a day. Some of them even paid us. And then the one I was at with the farm, because of like my size and that we were in the middle of nowhere, there's just a lot of things certain people can't do. So I would get paid to do like heavy lifting and moving stuff
Right.
for like, yeah. And I mean, like one of the places I was at, like $25 an hour to help with cactuses and stuff. So they were literally using this crane machine to move cactuses, but I was out there helping dig and replant them, but they needed people that had the muscle. So it was like 24 hours, $25 an hour. I was like, this is way better than like working inside of somewhere doing something I don't like doing. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love like having that variety of experience. I love variety. So I love meeting new people. I love doing new things, learning new things. Yeah, the first one that I was at, I was staying at a farm in the North Georgia mountains, and we were doing weddings. So I was there for 6 weeks, and there were 3 weddings while I was there, 3 different weddings. So yeah, weddings are fun. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, they're a lovely time, and people are, uniting in their love. So that's beautiful. And the lands were gorgeous. And now I am helping out with a dog breeder. So
Mhm.
we just actually had a litter of puppies. They're, let's see, they're I want to say 11 or 12 days old now.
Mm.
So they should be opening their eyes any day. I'm so excited.
That's beautiful.
So they're so stinking cute.
Yeah.
And it's great because I mean, I usually don't watch the news, and I kind of stay away from that stuff, but with all the stuff that's going on in the world, and then you have like a litter of puppies, like this new life, and it's so beautiful in front of you. It's like that contrast, it helps you to remember,
Mhm.
to remind you that life is diverse. Life is full of contrast. It's not just all the bad things. There's lots of beautiful things happening
True.
all the time.
True. True.
So
It's amazing when we get to step away and just because I feel like people like me, this is why I don't watch the news. If I watch the news, I'd be inundated with like negative stuff all day long. And it's the same with social media. Like when I really understood that the algorithm shows me the stuff that I pay the most attention to, like I don't see any content about most of the stuff that's going on in the world. I had no idea about the whole Rittenhouse stuff because it just doesn't show up for me until someone shared it in their story. And it's not that I don't care about stuff like that, but again, it's just too much stuff to try to comprehend all day of everything around the world. So I feel you. I love just seeing all this joy and love and people sharing their experiences. But I'm not living in a world that's like love and light. Like as a soldier going to war, I realized like what the world really is all about. So yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I just like, I agree. Like I know this stuff, and I'm very aware of the things that going on or that are going on. I mean, I studied psychology as well, and I've got a master's in social work. So I learned about the underprivileged, the underserved, and what they go through. I know all of that stuff. So I don't need it in my face necessarily all the time, every day. I don't need to dote on it. So like you said, it's not like I'm just in love and light and spiritually bypassing and all this stuff, but yeah, I want to focus on good things because it makes me happy, you
True.
know? Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, the people I'm staying with, they do watch the news in the evenings. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'll like overhear some stuff, and I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh. You know?
The family I was with on that farm I told you about, oh man, the husband like would read all the newspapers and do all the like just every day. Every two newspapers would come in, he'd sit there and read them. He was an older gentleman as well. He was like in his early 60s. So I mean, that's just he's probably not going to change if he chooses not to. And
Yeah.
I respected that. But I just loved that there would just be moments where he'd be bringing up something. And it reminded me of like growing up in Asia where someone showed me a meme. Asian parents would just always tell us stuff that was just like totally off the wall. And they'd be like, Khadaura, did you hear about what happened in Malaysia? And I'm like, no. And they were like, yeah, a whole bunch of villagers were massacred. And I'm just like, okay. And he's like, it's crazy. And I'm like, yeah. And like, where are you going with this conversation? And then that's it. That's the whole conversation. I'm like, well, now I'm paranoid that we might get messed. I was like, is that what you're thinking about happening here on the farm? Like, oh my goodness. And it's like, that's why I just avoid looking at stuff like that. Like, I
Yeah.
know what's going on in the world, but it's like, I don't need it to like shift how I feel about where I am.
Yeah.
Some people
Absolutely.
might be like, oh, you're bypass. I'm not bypassing. I know what goes on in the world. I can't save the world. So, but I can still do my part.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, the only thing I have been kind of paying attention to a little bit is what's going on as far as like mandates and restrictions and things like that, and where you can travel and where you can't, things of that nature. So just trying to stay aware of that, because I have this feeling of stuff that's going to be happening. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if I should talk about it or say it, but you know, I have a feeling of some things that are gonna take place. And so
I feel
yeah,
you.
just trying to be aware of like when that all happens, when that all starts to happen. And but yeah, I mean, I think also though there's enough people that are conscious and aware now to
Mhm.
where um there will be they won't stand for that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it should be.
More people are speaking up, more people are sharing, people are seeing the how censoring on social media really is geared towards. And it's like, even though like it's just there's always a way around of everything. So it's like, even for me, like I wanted to talk about sexual assault, but I knew just by typing that word or saying it verbally in a video, it would get flagged like under all the layers. So I just started putting, I saw someone else do it where she put SEGGS. So she says sexual. So I write it and I'm like, yes, I remember my sexual assault. And it's like, it does the AI won't pick it up. So I've noticed, I was like, oh, cool to know, cool to know.
Yeah, yeah. And there's like, you know, code words and people
Yeah,
can read between the lines and
yeah,
stuff, you
true.
know, like if I was to say like we're going to talk about current affairs. I mean, what current
Yeah.
affairs, it's basically without, you know, saying the words.
I
Like
just say, let's talk about, I'll say, I had a video where I was like, let's talk about life. And obviously everyone knew what I meant by that. Like I didn't have to say the thing. And it's just like, it's actually funny how good we are as humans at censoring ourselves. Like I'm pretty good at censoring bad words sometimes, but I'll be like, I was like, what the, and I just went on with my life. And my friend was like, you're really good at cutting yourself off from not saying the word. I'm like, I know.
yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it takes effort, but it's not that hard, really.
People again know what the word I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
your human brain already know, unless you're
It
from a
fills in
foreign
the
country.
gap.
Yeah, unless you're
Fills
from a
in the
different
gap.
country, you may not catch it. But yeah, people can fill in the gap of like, oh, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So interesting times. Interesting times.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. Just I'm just like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
What's
Oh,
gonna
I
happen?
have my plans. I because I'm ex-military, I've already got my plan of like,
You got your
if
plans.
things, yeah, if things go haywire in this state, I know where I'm going next. If things go haywire in this country, I know what to do. Even if things go haywire just in this building, I was like, I know where I'm going to hold up. And my friend's like, that's what you think about? I'm like, yeah, it literally took me 10 minutes to figure out what I was going to do. And because I have that training, my brain is constantly updating those things. So I will be taken care of. I have like snacks in a bag with other stuff, which is like my go bag where things get crazy. Honestly, no BS. I am literally prepared for a zombie apocalypse. Like, like at the highest level. And people will think that's crazy. And I'm like, when I say zombie apocalypse, what I mean is if things just go really crazy, even if it's like a type of war or fighting or violence happens here, I have my bag of things. And when they did we thought it was a test like 2 weeks ago, the alarm started going off and it went off. And normally when they're testing, it only goes off like for 10 seconds or 15 seconds. But I waited and I was like, it was going for like 45 seconds. And I'm like, ooh. So I actually went and grabbed the bag and just walked downstairs and I had like my phone. And it was like, we found out it was a test. And one of the people was like, you have a bag? And I'm like, yeah, it's actually got enough for myself and one other person to survive like a couple days. It's got like my solar panel chargers and all that stuff are all kept in there and ready to go. And I charge them every once in a while and put them right back in there. So
You know, it's actually really smart. And it's
yeah,
that's something that, you know, I'm gonna consider doing.
it's got it's got a few clothes in there, extra underwear. It's all nicely tightly wound up like
Basics.
military.
The
Yeah,
basics.
the
Yeah,
basics.
I've gotten really good at getting down to the basics, like what I absolutely need, because that's what you do when you're
Yep.
traveling around.
I
Mhm.
could survive on one pair of underwear for a very long time.
Okay. Oh, goodness gracious. What would be your other tips for people besides having a go bag?
Um, I'd say it's the hard thing is like most people aren't prepared what to do when there's no communication. And I
Right.
think that's where a lot of people would struggle. It's not so much the go bag, it's the mental aspect of what would you do if you can't contact anyone? Like if
Yeah.
there's no cell phone service, what would you
No
start doing?
internet, no
Most,
phone.
yeah, most people would like you already see it when Instagram goes down for a day. And I feel like every time they do it, it's a huge test. They get to see how the world reacts. Instagram shuts down and everybody goes to Twitter. Every time Instagram goes down, Facebook also goes down, and TikTok and Twitter blow up. And it's just like people start getting mad and angry, and it's only like a day. But I was like, imagine if everything went out and you couldn't contact anyone, you guys would lose your shit. And obviously, when the pandemic happened, everyone lost their minds and people were going out and buying stuff in excess, which I could understand. But it was like people, one of my friends, she's just now finishing up like all the stuff they bought like almost 2 years ago. Like all even the perishable stuff, the stuff that's in cans are like have been getting close to expiration, and she's just now finishing them. And I'm like, yeah, you bought a lot of stuff. So it's like it's a psychological game. And this would be different. At least when all that happened, people could still communicate. But if there was a moment where cell phone towers went out as well, I was like, I'd be good to go. Like I know how to get around, and I would honestly not try to contact everyone because I knew I wouldn't be able to reach them. I just literally focus on me, and if there's a neighbor, there's one neighbor that I'd look after because I know she'd probably lose her mind.
Yeah, maybe people in your really close vicinity.
Yeah.
Yeah, whether it's the neighbor, people you're staying with, or if you're walking or driving distance to other people you care about.
And my best
Um, yeah, that would. I love that. I love that.
first me, then baby Grogu, and then everyone else comes after that.
Man, I've got a Stitch, Lulu and Stitch,
Yeah.
that movie. I've got a Stitch stuffed animal, so that's my buddy.
Then in case I need food out of animals, I have my knives always.
Okay, I got you. Out and kill those snakes.
Yeah, gotta take those snakes out. Or just, yeah, I'm not gonna go into all that, but yeah. People get weird, people get dumb during incidents. I can say that.
Yeah. I mean, that's I honestly like don't know if everything went out, if all the communication lines went out, like I don't know what would happen. I don't know what people would do. It would probably be a pretty crazy situation.
It would be The Purge. That's like the Purge movies are like,
Right.
I haven't watched them because I already know what would happen. And it's like a friend of mine was like, "Do you really?" I was like, "Yeah, I've been in the military. I've seen what happens when things go out. I've watched what people in other countries will do, and most of those people aren't as illiterate or as intelligent as we are on like a socioeconomical level. I know what would happen if that happened here. Like
So
people."
like is the strategy to like get out of the cities? Is that the best strategy?
It really depends. I would say the strategy is go get as much as you can and then hunker down where you live. Like for me, I live in an apartment building on the seventh floor. So I would go I'd literally go to like if people started going into stores and taking stuff that they shouldn't take, I would probably be among them to survive. And then I would come right back up here and just close everything and make sure my door is locked and just focus on myself. And I've like, and it's easier for me because I've been to the extent where in Japan, I had to stay in total darkness for 30 days. So it's like I've been in spaces where I didn't have any communication and no one talked to me. So it's like my brain won't like, oh, what's gonna happen, and give me all these weird scenarios to try to scare me because at the end of the day, we're not afraid of the dark. Like that's the one lesson I used to always say. We're not afraid of the dark. We're afraid of what we think is in the dark. And even when I trained with the vulva, in order to graduate, so to say, you spend one night in the beginning in the forest by yourself. You're just literally in the middle of the forest all by yourself, no blankets, none of that stuff. And you just spend the night. And while you're in the forest, you start hearing stuff. And it's that aspect of, are you afraid of the dark or are you afraid of what you think is in the dark? So
Yeah, I'd be afraid of the stuff that's in the dark. No, but I think when we like go through challenging situations in our life, it just builds more resilience and yeah, like I can tell you after having sat with ayahuasca a few times that that's definitely built my resilience a lot, to where I'm I get a lot less frightened of things, now than compared to years ago. So yeah, but let's hope it doesn't come to that,
Yeah, no, for sure.
Let's hope it
I,
doesn't.
I always I hope for the best and plan for the worst. And it's not a mentality of like calling it into, because people will be like, well, then you're just calling it into your space. I'm like, no, I'm a realist. Like, again, I can always hope for the best, but I've also been through war. I know what the world is really like. And I feel like a lot of people that have never experienced stuff like that, they'll be the ones that suffer the most because oh, what's happening? Like, I can't believe that's what the pandemic proved. I think during this whole phase, people got to see like, oh my goodness, like I actually never thought something like this would happen in my lifetime. And then people had to learn to adapt and overcome, which they've done. And it could still always get worse and it could always get better. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I feel kind of bad for people that haven't been through, you know, they haven't been through tough scenarios in their lives. It's like, oof, you guys are up for a rude awakening.
And honestly, this wasn't even to like, in all honesty, in my experience, this wasn't that bad
No.
because there wasn't as much looting and rioting as I've seen in other parts of the world when they have stuff like this. When I was in other parts of the world and stuff like this would happen, like a pandemic or any type of outbreak, the rioting and the looting happened and people would get killed over, chips and medical stuff, and hospitals were being raided and all those things like that. So it's like that is when I learned to prepare, and I was like, I need to make sure I have basic medical stuff in this bag and basic things to protect myself and all that stuff like that. So I mean, I recommend everyone even just go on YouTube and watch some self-defense thing and just practice with your friend. Do something, learn to protect yourself, because the last thing you want to do is try to learn in the spot and trust your fight, flight, or freeze. So, and whatever the other one is. Yeah.
And fawn.
Fawn. Yeah. I always forget that one.
Yeah, it's kind of the weirdest one. Because I always think of like a fawn, like a deer. I'm like, wait.
Yeah, I think of a deer. So the first time they were like fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So in my mind, I'm like, fight, flight, freeze. And then I'm like, would they like be like galloping through the
Or like with their little hooves.
Yeah. I just imagine Bambi and I'm like, I don't think I'd fawn. And be like, mother.
Oh my gosh, I saw that movie recently. It's so sad.
I haven't watched it since I was a kid, but I'll never forget that scene.
So sad, right? And then his dad just comes up and he's like, yep, she's gone. He walks away. It's like, damn.
And it was like big deer antlers, like your mother's dead.
I'm like, that's how people have been living. Oh my God, it's horrible.
And at that age, I didn't process it like I would now as an adult. But when I rewatched some of the movies that I watched as a kid, I'm just like, I was kind of messed up. I was like, Aladdin was a thief. Like you were a thief, dude. Like
he lied.
You could have gotten a job. Like, you lazy.
Yeah, starts off a relationship with lies, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
You were lying the whole time. You got a monkey trading to steal stuff from people. Like, what?
Oh
you even almost lied to the genie. Like, you're just a liar. No wonder no one trusts you.
Oh my gosh.
I got super judgmental at this age.
Freaking hilarious. Well, I've really enjoyed our conversation. This has been a blast as always. If people want to connect with you or find you, what's the best way for them to do that? And of course, I can drop links in the description.
Sure. Easiest way to connect with me is just close your eyes and drop in and think about me. Outside of that, if you're not used to doing that, the links will just be Khadaura Roshan on all the social media platforms and all that cool stuff like that.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was my pleasure. It was an honor to have you here. And I hope that the viewers got a lot out of it.